Mike Adams, thank you so much for joining us today on Pipe Dream.
My pleasure. So nice to be with you there, Jason.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you. Obviously, we met each other a couple of days ago at SaaStock.
What a coincidence. Small world. All the cool people end up at SaaStock in Dublin. That's where it's happening. Lots of startup founders, lots of investors, and lots of podcast conversations. So yeah, great coincidence.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your podcast, because you've been running it for a while and you've got a bunch of episodes under your belt. How's this journey been?
It's been incredible. So my podcast is called The Super Connectors, where I interview other people who define themselves as super connectors, meaning they love to connect people, they love to bring people together, they love to create opportunity. And it's also about their personal mission and their purpose in life and how they love to help others. So we've had like more than 40 episodes already. Everyone on the show is always a super connector, meaning they've got 10, 15, 20,000 followers or more. So very interesting people from every walk of life. So we've had recruiters, B2B salespeople, founders, investors, people who've worked in every industry. So it's been quite an interesting journey. The reason I do the podcast is because I want to hear all these stories. I want to meet all these other super connectors. But most importantly, I want to inspire other people to become super connectors. So the ultimate goal, my spiritual mission in life, is to connect millions of people. And the best way to do that is to inspire more people to become connectors. And so the podcast is just a way to do that and to learn great stories and to build a community of super connectors. So yeah, it's been quite an interesting journey. I've done all my podcast episodes in person in a studio in London and another studio in New York, because I love to have that face-to-face conversation, the energy of the room. And I do it in a very interesting way, which I haven't seen anyone else do, which I invite 5 or 6 guests together and we record episodes back to back in one session of 2 hours. So episodes are quite short. And then we all go together for drinks. So you create kind of a little mini networking event after the podcast. And that's been amazingly successful. Every guest has found it amazing. They love to meet other guests. And so it's a really interesting format.
Mike, I absolutely love that, because I feel like it talks to this idea around how B2B marketing is evolving and how B2B businesses and people running B2B businesses need to be approaching their customers. You know, we talk about this idea of owned media being made up of 3 pillars: content, community, and events. The idea being that you create some content IP, you build a community around that content IP, and you service that community with events. And in what you just described, you are hitting all 3 of those in one nice, tight little package.
Absolutely. So my target market are super connectors. These are people I want to attract. So I invite other super connectors. We also do the podcast, which is amazing content. And then we get together in person, and it's actually a networking event. So it's an experience, right? And so they're excited to be on my show. And so, as you said, I kind of tick all these boxes. And most importantly, on the podcast, the guests usually say nice things about me and my startup. So instead of me talking about myself or my startup saying it's amazing, they actually say that. So I get incredible content and PR and a good word from influencers to talk about me in a positive light. So yeah, it's a really cool journey.
Fantastic. Well, you have come right out the gate with a ton of value. Let me put this question to you. What do you think is one piece of conventional B2B marketing wisdom that is now completely backwards in the age of AI?
You know, you're putting your finger on it. It's AI, AI, AI. You know, I have been to so many marketing talks and marketing events where they say, use AI agents for everything, get rid of humans, use AI for this, use AI for that. And this is especially true when it comes to lead generation. There's a million AI startups doing AI-powered lead generation, where an AI bot creates personalized messages and spams 1 billion people, hoping that you're going to get a small response rate, which will turn into active customers. And for me, that's considered conventional wisdom, that everyone should use AI bots to spam 1 billion people. I think that's completely wrong. Like, you should absolutely not use AI spam bots to spam 1 billion people. Because what happens, of course, which is obvious to everyone, is that the response rates are crashing because we are being bombarded by AI spam messages all day long. My inbox is full of personalized AI spam messages from AI bots. And I don't even look at them. I delete them right away because I know it's super obvious it's being written by AI. And so the problem is for millions of people, this becomes normal that you just spam a bunch of people and you hope to get a small response rate. I think it's a completely wrong approach. I think it's a wrong thing to do for so many reasons. First of all, again, those response rates are crashing. That's the first issue. And users receiving all these AI spam messages are getting smarter and smarter and starting to use AI spam filters to block all this incoming AI slop. So it becomes a war of AI versus AI spam bots versus AI spam filters. And the result of that is a zero-sum game where response rates will go to zero. And so the other issue with that, of course, as a company and as a person, is that you're projecting your personal brand image as a master spammer. And that's not a good personal brand image to have or a company brand image to have. And so that is, again, the conventional wisdom I would completely go against. I would say, do not spam 1 billion people. Do not spam 1 million people with AI bots. And what should you do instead? I mean, that's a big question, of course,
Yeah.
which is to run in the other direction, 180 degrees. And, and it's to focus purely on warm introductions and warm referrals from real human beings. So instead of a potential buyer receiving 500 AI slop messages, they only receive one message from someone they trust, someone they've met in person, someone they've built a relationship with, and they will actually read that message. And typically that message will be an introduction to someone else. And so what am I suggesting is that everyone should focus their energy and their time and their efforts on building a warm referral program instead of spamming 1 billion people.
So talk us through how you go about building that warm referral program you speak of.
So a warm referral program, there's two different parts of it. One is, of course, to work with your existing customers and to ask them to send you referrals to other potential customers. That's what most people assume is a warm referral program, and which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. All good. But that's not what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on the bigger referral programs where you attract super connectors who are not your customers and get them to send you referrals. Work with their network, their trusted network. They've spent 20, 30 years building the relationships and the reputation and their community and their connections, and ask or incentivize them to send you referrals. And so how do you do that? Well, first of all, create a referral program where you incentivize referrals, meaning you typically pay a percentage of a successful introduction, which turns into a deal. You reward the introducer with a commission, a referral commission. Then you create a tracking mechanism so that any introducers who sends you an introduction, you can track those introductions over time. So if a deal comes out 6 months later, you can still reward the introducer properly. Third, you need to find a way to attract all these introducers. How do you get them to send you referrals? So that's typically building your personal brand, going to lots of networking events, having maybe a super connector as part of your team, or talking to other super connectors. You can introduce more super connectors, and then promoting your referral program. So creating like a web page or website where you promote that referral program to more super connectors. Now you can do all of these things, and of course you need legal terms and conditions, having a referral agreement, etc., etc. Now everything I just explained takes a lot of time and effort. Of course it does, but there are shortcuts. So a shortcut would be to use a referral platform which does all of that for you in 3 clicks. And that's exactly what I've built. My own startup is called introstars.com, which is exactly that. It really is a shortcut to everything I described in a few clicks. So in 3 minutes, you build your entire referral program with all the terms and conditions, with the tracking mechanism, and you instantly reach an army of thousands of super connectors. So it makes your life so much easier. And again, it's all focused on human relationships, human connection, no AI.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
You know, we came into this conversation with a bunch of questions already planned that we wanted to go through, but I think what you're talking about is just so interesting. I'd like to take us onto a slightly different tact because I love this idea of like super connectors. And I think people will intuitively understand what that means, but maybe struggle to understand how exactly they get into a position where they themselves are a super connector. And so if you can, I'd love you just to break down in like a couple of steps for someone who's listening to this and saying like, okay, this is a role I want to play because I see it as being of huge value for me and my business. Like, what do I need to do to become like Mike and become a super connector?
Really, there's no official dictionary definition of a super connector. It is a self definition. So if you go to LinkedIn and you type super connector as a search term, you're going to find 10,000 profiles of people who define themselves as super connectors. And typically, these are people who just love to connect people. They just do it on a regular basis, every day, every week. They make as many introductions to connections as possible. Now, I want to change that. I want to create an official definition and certification for super connectors. And so I just launched that on Intro Stars. You can sign up for free, make a bunch of intros, receive points for those intros. And when you get enough points, you get a badge to officially certify that you're a super connector. And you can then publish that badge on your LinkedIn profile as an official certificate. And this will elevate your personal brand and your social proof that you're a great helper. And the benefit of doing that is that then loads of people will come towards you to build partnerships, to work with you. That will elevate your trust. People will trust you more because you're officially a super connector, meaning you help other people, and people love that. And so really there's a lot of positive personal brand benefits of having that certificate or badge as a super connector. So what does it actually mean? A super connector would be someone who goes to lots of networking events in person, meets a lot of people, but most importantly, when they meet all these people, they don't just try to sell what their product is. What they're actually trying to do is build real relationships and help others. So a typical question I would ask to everyone I meet at networking events would be, what introduction could I make for you? How could I help you be more successful with an introduction? Who would be the best introduction I could make for you? So if I ask that question consistently to every person I meet at networking events, that would elevate my personal brand as a super connector, as a helper. And of course, in return, I will receive a lot of introductions. Of course, it's always a two-way street. You build your karma box, your personal brand and reputation as a super connector, meaning other people want to help you as well with introductions. So again, my advice to people out there who are at the beginning of this journey is to go to as many networking events as possible, meet as many people as possible, but always go there with the mindset of helping others and with the mindset of helping other people with introductions. So that would be my advice to people. And you will get amazing things out of it because you will meet great people, you'll build trust, you'll build relationships, and over time, you'll build your network of connections. And that can only be positive, whether it's for your career, for your whatever you're looking for. You're looking for investments, for a new job, for business partners, for people to hire. Anything you're looking for always comes through introductions. So there's always a great benefit of being a super connector, building your network, and helping others. And it's fun as well. You must have fun in the process. That's important.
Absolutely. And I think the idea that's kind of in my mind as you're talking about all of this is the idea of community and taking a more of an active role and being proactive in developing your community rather than being a reactive participant of a community, right? Putting yourself at the center of it. I think maybe some people listening to this podcast would be nodding their heads, Mike, and saying, yeah, okay, I've got to go to a lot of networking events and that makes sense. But also it's, somewhat inherently unscalable. Like as my business grows, am I asking all of my employees who I'm tasking them with becoming super connectors to go out to all of these events all the time? Or are there other ways that I can build my reputation as a super connector alongside networking events that don't necessarily require me to be out of the office all the time? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I would say it's 50-50. I think 50% of your time should be focusing on going to networking events, meeting a lot of people and helping people. The other 50% should be about building your personal brand, meaning your LinkedIn profile, make sure it looks amazing in terms of visual, in terms of messaging, in terms of how you help people. And then content marketing, like create content on LinkedIn on a regular basis, nuggets of knowledge, case studies, success stories, what you're working on, how you're helping others, and show yourself as an expert in your domain, whatever your domain is. Make sure you build that thought leadership on your LinkedIn, and it has to be. It's not like something you do once or twice. It's something you do every single day for like 6 months, 1 year. You need to really elevate your personal brand with content on LinkedIn so that you elevate your brand. So when you meet people at networking events, they obviously, after the fact, they're going to connect to you on LinkedIn. They're going to check your personal brand, and that will reinforce the impression they had of you when they met you at that networking event. So the two things work hand in hand: in-person networking, helping others by making great introductions, and working on your personal brand and content marketing on your LinkedIn. So all these things are really, they're not separate things. They all work together, right? They have to be coherent. So that's really important. Your personal brand, content marketing, your LinkedIn, thought leadership, and then of course doing podcasts is a big part of that. Elevating your personal brand, and really your reputation is so important. And the way I define reputation, I've heard this from lots of other people, I didn't invent this, is how people talk about you when you're not in the room, right? How do people remember you? Oh yeah, it's that guy, it's that girl who's a specialist in that field or domain. And so really it's important to build that. And then you want to be top of mind. Like if you meet someone once, a few weeks later they forgot about you. If you go to lots of networking events, you start to run into the same people on a regular basis, then you start to build that long-term relationship and stay top of mind for them, which is really important. So when they ever meet someone who could be a potential client for you, they'll remember, oh yeah, I need to introduce them to Jason or Mike, So that's really important as well. That's why you want to have that regular emphasis on your personal brand, on your content, and in-person events. And then to elevate your personal brand, make as many introductions as you can. Really make lots and lots of introductions. That really helps with your personal brand. People will remember that. So my advice is, of course, to do those introductions on intro stars, because then you can track those introductions over time and people can reward you as well. So it's a win-win-win for everyone involved. But some introductions you can do, of course, them on LinkedIn, on WhatsApp, on email. Sure, that's great too. Do all of it. The more the
Awesome.
merrier.
Yeah, this is all super interesting. It's almost like, how do you kind of gamify as you're doing in your platform, the experience of making introductions, almost like going into a room like we were in SaaStock over the last couple of days and saying, right, I am not walking back out of those doors until I have made 10, 15, 20 introductions of all the people that I've met, and then seeing that goodness come back to you. Which leads me to my next question, which is, could you just tell us a story or a couple of examples, maybe for your business or the clients that you work with, where all of this has manifested itself in a commercial outcome that just validates the whole exercise? Like, how do people know when they've succeeded? And if you have a story where you can kind of bring that to life, I'd love to hear it.
To be honest, everything that ever happened in my life, good things, have always been via introductions. Always, always, always. I've worked for 9 different companies, and 9 of these companies, every single job was via an introduction from a headhunter, a recruiter, someone I met somewhere who introduced me to that job, that recruiter manager. So every job I've ever had was via introductions. And then every team member, whoever joined my team or people worked for me, it was always via introductions, whether it's headhunters, someone I knew, someone introduced me to them at a networking event. Every investor I've ever met was always via someone who introduced me to them at a networking event. About 10 years ago, I was working in sales for a small tech company in central London. And my job was a business development manager, meaning I had to hunt for new clients. That was my job. And we're a tiny company, 35 employees. No one had heard of us. And so from day one, when I was hired for that role, I thought I'll never do a single cold call or cold email because no one has heard of me. Like, that's not going to work. And so instead, I started going to networking events in person consistently. And I realized that there's loads of people who go to these networking events day in, day out, and are professional networkers. That's literally what they do. And they meet other professional networkers. They build trusting relationships among super connectors, super networkers, professional networkers. And those people would send referrals to each other all the time, introductions to each other. And so I wanted to be part of that. And I built those relationships by just being consistent about it, going to all these networking events. And in 2.5 years, I built a pipeline of £5 million of business, purely networking, not a single cold call, zero cold call, zero cold email, purely networking in person in London. This was for a commercial real estate company. I was doing AV technology, so meeting room technology. And I was working with other super networkers who work in commercial real estate, people doing office furniture, office design, office relocation, office architects. And all these people are super networkers. That's all they do all day long, every day, is to go to networking events to figure out who are the potential projects, companies relocating their offices, etc. And then the next day, all these super networkers go for coffee to catch up and send referrals to each other, introductions to each other. And that's literally a secret society of super networkers in the commercial real estate industry. And I was fascinated, like, whoa, I never knew this world existed. And I was, because I was so consistent, I got introduced into this world. And I was one of them. At the end of the day, I was part of that mafia of super networkers in the commercial real estate of London. And it was an incredible, insightful journey. And that's when I realized that most of these super networkers are more than happy to pay you a referral commission if you introduce them to a customer and they close the deal. Once they close the deal, they're happy to pay a referral commission, like 5 or 10% of the deal, whatever that is. But the problem is most of these referral commissions are paid a bit under the table as a gentleman's agreement. Maybe we'll sign a referral agreement, maybe not. There's not much transparency. There's not always a tracking mechanism. So if you make an introduction, but the deal only closes 6 months later, they might have forgotten about you. They forgot that you made that introduction, and so you're not rewarded. And so that's when I had the epiphany, the idea to build intro stars is a way to make it more transparent, more open, more scalable, where it's all taken care of. It's like one click, it's all done. And so really it came from my personal experience as a super networker in this world of super networking and super connectors in commercial real estate. But this applies to every industry, of course. And so really, I can see the bigger picture. I can see a world where in the future, everyone will be an introducer. Millions and millions of people will become an introducer, and all these introductions will be tracked and rewarded. Like when a deal comes out, the introducer will get rewarded because it's really fair compensation for the effort they put into the introduction, building those relationships over time. And so I can see this as the ultimate side gig or side hustle for millions of people to be introducers. In the age of AI, where all our jobs are going to be disappearing with AI agents doing everything, the only thing which will never be replaced by AI is human relationships, human trusts. And I think we're all going to double down on human relationships. And I think that's the job of the future, being an introducer. I'm very excited by that. I think that's really what we need to tell young people, getting out of university now or going to university, that the only job which will always be relevant is being an introducer. And let's inspire millions of people to become introducers. I think that's very positive for the world. It's also very ethical. People being introducers, connecting people, it's very positive. It's bringing people together. So from an ethical, spiritual point of view, it's beautiful. It's bringing people together, connecting the dots. I think it's fabulous. Yeah.
I mean, Mike, what I love about you is just the passion that you clearly feel for all of this and networking and becoming a super connector. And you've been so, gracious with your advice. You've made things super practical and actionable. I'm sure our listeners are going to take a ton of value away from this conversation. As we look at wrapping up, where can people learn more about you? Where can they learn a little bit more about everything that you've been talking about today? And of course, where can they learn more about IntroStars?
So, I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's my favorite channel. So I don't really use Instagram, TikTok, and X very much yet. I really like LinkedIn. So go to LinkedIn, and my handle on LinkedIn is Super Mike. Very simple.
I love that.
If you're Super Mike on LinkedIn, you'll find me. Then I've got my podcast, which is called The Super Connectors. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. And then just go to our website, introstars.com. It's free to sign up as an introducer. Just sign up for free and start to make introductions, help other people, and get rewarded. Let's make the world a better place.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to drop the links to all of those resources in the show notes of this episode. But Mike, thank you so much for coming on to Pipe Dream today.
It's been my absolute pleasure, Jason. And hopefully we can inspire founders and other people to create an intro economy all together and make some great introductions for each other.
I love that. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Jason.